Welcome to Teshuva Life, a place where we go on our knees and we plead before the Almighty for Him to transform us from the inside out so that we may live a life that is pleasing in His eyes. My wife and I welcome you to our YouTube channel, and we want you to know that regardless of where you are in your walk, whether you're someone who is just getting started and stumble into this video, or someone who is deeply involved in the occult and wants a way out, the Almighty loves you. And He loves you so much that He gave His only Son to offer you an opportunity to enter into covenant with Him, to follow and to love His laws, decrees, and right rulings, which are for our good. But would you? That is your choice. I want to start out by saying that yesterday the live stream had to be interrupted because there was conflict in my home that needed to be addressed before I could speak. Yeshua tells us that if you have something against your brother and you are on the way to present a gift to the Almighty, leave your gift, whatever it is, and go make things right with your brother, then go back and offer your gift, your offering to the Most High. When there is something wrong in my home, I cannot speak until it is fixed. Otherwise, I will be a hypocrite and I will not be teaching by example. Regardless of what other people decide to do, Teshuva Outreach stands on the firm conviction that for a man, in this case myself, to teach, he must be able to lead by example. And if there is this harmony in my home, it's not horrible stuff happening, it's just this harmony, then that has to be fixed first before I could be speaking on the microphone. Otherwise, I'll be walking the down path of hypocrisy, and that is wrong. And the Almighty hates those things. Yeshua, the Mashiach, when He walked on the earth, He told to the Pharisees and the scribes, "You lot of vipers." With their words, they claim no covenant, but with their actions, they deny the very things that they say. So I want to thank you for being understanding and realizing that for me to speak, it's our opinion, for any man to speak and teach, there must be things must be right in his home, because that is where the work begins, in our own homes. I want to thank my beloved princess, whom I love so much, for her patience with me, for enduring with me, and for learning how to deal with me in stages in occasions in which I still behave very immaturely. Without her, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much, baby. I want to thank my mom as well, who reached out to me and said, "What's going on? Why are you not on the stream? I'm praying for you." Thank you, Mom. I appreciate all the hard work that you and my earthly father, have done on raising not only me, but my siblings as well. May the Almighty bless you and keep you. And so today we will continue with the last portion of Torah Shemini, and we will also do a brief recap of the portion. So far, this last portion of Shemini that we'll be talking about, Shemini means eighth, because on the eighth day, Moses called Aaron, his sons, and the leaders of Israel, and set them apart to make atonement for themselves and then make atonement for the people. There have been 7 days in which they're being prepared for the establishment of the temple service and the establishment of the priesthood. And in this last section, we'll be talking about that which is not food when it dies, and it touches that which is food, and whatever it is, utensils, things that we can use to eat, to work, how it ought to be purified. In the last portion, we talked about that which is to be eaten and that which is not to be eaten. The Almighty gave us very specific instructions, and I invite you to please go ahead and review those instructions, for it is necessary to keep those in the forefront of our minds and in between our eyes, that we might remember to do them and do them properly. So with that in mind, we are going to jump to Leviticus Veikira, Leviticus chapter 11, verses 33 to the end of the chapter. Leviticus 11, verses 33 to the end of the chapter, which is verse 47. We'll be talking about how to deal with some of the that which is contaminated, that which is good for us to use and eat, but to do when it is contaminated. This is a kind of a challenging application because in this modern day in which we live, we're used to compromising so quickly and so easily. My household included, myself included, but we're getting out of that compromise, in which we can go to any restaurant and you just buy that which is food for us to eat. But that which is food for us to eat, it is most of the time, if not all the time, cooked at the same grill with the same utensils with that which is not food for us to eat. And that what the world says that is food does not necessarily means that is food, at least not for those who are seeking to keep the dietary instructions of Leviticus and those who long to serve the Most High. All right, let us go to Leviticus 11:32. And whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object or garment or a skin or sack, any object in which work is done, it is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening. Then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever it is, in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Any of the food which might be eaten, on which water comes, becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean. And on whatever any of the carcasses falls becomes unclean. An oven or cooking range, it is broken down. They are unclean, and they are unclean to you. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water, is clean. But whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But when any water is put on it, on the seed, and any part of any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. Verse 39. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean until evening. And he who eats of its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who picks up its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And every swarming creature, the one that swarms on the earth, is an abomination. It is not eaten. Whatever claws on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all swirling creatures, the ones swirling on the earth, these you do not eat, and therefore they are an abomination. Do not make yourselves abominable with any swirling creature, the one unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swirling creature, the one creeping on earth. For I am Yahweh, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, to be your Elohim. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is when it says, be holy, for I am holy, that we read later in the New Testament as well. Verse 46. This is the Torah, or the instruction, for the beast and the birds, and every living being, the creeping creature in the waters, and every being that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. And that concludes Shemini. Now let us explain a little bit. There are so many. I'll be frank, honest with you. This thing of being clean and unclean and swarming and emerging in water, I don't have a teaching on that yet. It is coming up sometime in the very near future. But what I can tell you right now, what we can understand and what I can glean from it, that we can definitely apply to our everyday lives, is eating at restaurants which serve that which is not food. When we decide to patron those restaurants, to eat at those restaurants, it's almost that we are sometimes, most of the time, if not always, we're uncertain of what gets cooked where. And so out of caution, I would advise to abstain from eating at restaurants that that serve food that is not food for us to eat. In the 21st century, especially the people who are watching this video, most likely than us, we don't have to be so concerned as to what kind of insects we're going to eat, because we're not going to eat them. We don't have to be concerned about eating scorpions and serpents, because most of us are not going to eat it. Now, people in other countries, in other cultures, I think they do. And there's nothing necessarily evil with them. It's just that they are in a different place of the world, and they do not know any better. But you who are hearing this should know better than that now, including myself. And so there's a great danger that many of us do compromise when we go out to the restaurants because of comfort, because it is easy. I'll be really honest with you. Cooking all your meals at home is not difficult. It's not like you have to run through the Sahara Desert barefooted under an hour. It's not like you have to dive, go to the bottom of the ocean, hang out with the dolphins, and then come all the way up without any, on your own, without any oxygen tanks whatsoever. It is not hard. It is challenging because we've come to live in an age of convenience. Convenience is the new evil. Because then we say what we see as an inconvenience, we're most likely to see as something that is being hard. Just as abstinence is not hard, it's a very big inconvenience, because we live in a world in which is saying you can do whatever you want to do when you want to do it, and that becomes hard. But it's not hard, it's an inconvenience. And that is the new evil in which we live, inconvenience. Because we're so inconvenienced for many things. But if you don't do what is right in the eyes of the Most High, I'd be deadly afraid that you might be told you're not welcome into the kingdom. And so I start applying this to me first, because I am at home, long to make it all the way, and be told by the Most High, well done, good and trustworthy servant. I encourage you to reflect, to pray, to humble yourself, to examine yourself, and to read the scriptures as it is written. Does any of this make sense? And if it does, please continue to read, continue to confess sin, and continue to cry out to the one who hears and to the one who knows. Let us pray. Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Yitzhak, and Elohim of Jacob, Elohim of our forefathers who took them out of the land of Egypt to a great and beautiful land, the most beautiful of lands, who gave us laws, decrees, and precepts that are good for us, that are to be wholeheartedly obeyed, because in them you are guarding us, Father, who sent to us Mashiach, to show us, Yeshua, to show us how to walk out your instructions that were given to our forefathers, that are given to us right here in the scriptures. The one who was buried, who died, buried, and resurrected, and is coming back again to judge the living and the dead. It is to you, great Almighty One, that we humbly petition and humbly come before thee, begging you to help us do what is required of us, so that we might be found in good standing in your eyes, that we might get to know your heart and serve you wholeheartedly. Master, if we just went through Shemini, the 8th, because on the 8th day you commanded Moses to call Aaron, his children, and the leaders of Israel to make atonement for themselves and make atonement for the people. Father, how many are being called to lead your sheep Raise up good shepherds, Master, we beg thee, that would treat the flock with love and with kindness, with respect, that will have the heart of Moses and say, don't kill them, kill me. And might that essence, that my desire begin with your servant who is humbly before thee and with the rest of the people in this video who are watching. Have mercy, I beg thee, over those whom you are calling, and raise them up to be good shepherds that give their life for the flock. And help the flock, Father. Help make the job easier for the shepherds. That you may raise up a generation that is not willing to compromise, but to willing to follow you wholeheartedly by all means necessary. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen. Thank you for watching. If the mighty so wills, we'll see you tomorrow in the next Parsha. Shalom, shalom.